Don Olds, Dion Shaft, and Kurt Klein. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There we go. Hope everybody's mic on here. Talking some rain out there. That wouldn't hurt nothing.
No, it wouldn't a bit. It looks pretty good in the west part of the state, but by the time it gets here, all summer long, it disappears. So we'll see what happens.
Or it could turn to white stuff on. What are we going to talk about this morning?
Well, I wanted to start out talking about a few things with the district services that folks might want to think about this fall. First of all, there's the fall herbicide application for the young tree rows. We use Cazeron. It's a granular herbicide that suppresses the weeds in the spring before the trees come out of dormancy. And then it should have an effect for most of the growing season. And we'll probably be doing that application sometime here in mid-November, depending on the weather. So if anybody's interested in that, they should probably let us know sometime yet this month. Another thing is tree orders. I know spring seems like a long time away, but you have to start thinking about that this fall. First of all, the planting sites should start with the preparation in fall, and then work them again next spring. And you want to get them to the point that when we plant them, they're not chunky but not fluffy either, so that gives you an idea of where you're aiming. And the other thing about beginning planting this fall is that if we need to, we can get out there, get the site measured, and look at the soils to make sure that we're getting suitable tree species for it.
Okay, sounds good. What else going on?
Also for tree orders, I should mention, if you've got existing trees rows out there, the leaves are going fast, so if you need to do an order to get replacement trees, you need to get out there and get them counted now.
Okay.
And we can order the trees anytime up to next spring, but the nurseries have a limited supply, some species more than others, so the sooner you get your order in, the better. We kind of recommend November if at all possible. And we can also order some apple trees, but the fruit trees go especially quickly, so again, you want to get that in pretty quick.
Okay. And I know you're going to talk something about deer and rabbit repellent.
Yeah. We have something called Plant Skid. We use it mainly for protecting trees and shrubs because what it does is it has a smell that it acts as a deterrent and makes them avoid the plants. For the best protection, they recommend that you treat them before browse starts, either in the spring or in the fall. And if you put it on right, the spray is rain resistant. So it's supposed to last up to 6 months in the winter and 3 to 4 months during the growing season. But the one thing you need to know is that you have to spray it onto the dry plants, and then it needs another 24 hours to dry on properly before it's effective and rain resistant. So you got to get it into a patch there where you've got some dry weather. It's also good for the flower and vegetable gardens. There's a granular form that's intended for small mammals like rabbits and rodents. And also because it's made with dry blood, it actually is a fertilizer as well. So, and I also want to point out that it is non-toxic. It's approved for organic production, so you can use it in your vegetable gardens.
Okay. Kurt, I got a question for you, whether you're going to talk about it or not. How did the tour go out at the Spickler Ranch? I was unable to attend. I don't know if you got over there. I had some other commitment that night, so I was wondering how that worked out.
That worked out pretty good. We had pretty good turnout, pretty good meal at the end. The only problem is they were a little disappointed. They've done this cover crop thing for like 3 or 4 years, and the 3 previous years has just been excellent. And then he told us right from the get-go, he says, yeah, I'll take you out to my disaster, because they planted cover crop, and without the moisture for that stuff to germinate, it just didn't come. So. But Don's gonna be talking about cover crop, and then I'm gonna fill in. But we're gonna have a little incentive here for people that are listening at the end of the program. We'll have a question about cover crop, and I guess the first person that calls in, we'll give them a Big Z basket. How's that sound?
Okay, hey, that sounds good. Okay, Don, over to you, I guess.
Well, even on the disaster area out there on the Spickler Ranch, it looked pretty good actually. It was a disaster in their eyes, but as far as cover crop, it actually did its job. I guess what I want to talk about a little bit is cover crops and some of the benefits they got, some program deadlines. EQIP, we're still taking EQIP applications up until November 16th. We know for sure that the EQIP program will be going forward. Later on in the winter, we'll be batching in January. We'll batch in November. We'll rank by January, and fund by the first of the year, first part of April. As far as cover crops.
Do you want me to go over what we had discussed? Or?
Yeah, you could, I guess,
Okay.
yeah.
So, well, what we were suggesting was the cover crops for controlling your water situation. Depending on your site, you might be either worrying about excess water or drought in the field, and it's been discussed that some people are working their low spots to try to dry them out and improve water infiltration into their hard ground, but what we're saying is that this is actually counterproductive. If they use no-till and cover crops, it'll actually go farther to improve that situation, whether it's wet or dry, than working the ground, and this is because it's a matter of soil health. If you're working the ground, you're destroying your organic matter and the soil organisms, and while it encourages the evaporation of water, it's doing it in the worst possible way. Cover crops are going to increase the organic matter in the soil and help to promote those soil organisms, and in that way it's improving the soil's tilth and aggregation, and this improves the water infiltration and holding capacity of the soil. While they're at it also, the growing roots provide channels for water infiltration after the crop dies or is harvested, especially if you're using species that have strong taproots like sunflower or tillage radishes. In the process, they also hold nitrogen that would leach away, and they bring up nitrogen that would otherwise be too deep for other crops to use. And the brassicas, like radish and turnip, decompose quickly, and that makes the nitrogen available for the next crops. Now, you might be wondering how these cover crops help in both wet and dry situations. In wet situations, the cover crops help use up excess water, and while they're doing this, they're improving the soil condition, as we said, so that more water will infiltrate and be held by the soil rather than running off to grow the nearest wetland. Meanwhile, the water loss from plant transpiration doesn't increase the soil salinity the way that evaporation of water directly from the soil does, because when it does that, it brings the salts to the surface. In a dry situation, the plants shade the soil and absorb moisture to keep it from evaporating off, and this conserves some of that moisture for later crops. And at the same time, they're supporting the continued growth of the soil organisms, which again helps support the later crops. So cover crops can be used in either situation, dry or wet, and how they affect your moisture management is determined by the species used and the timing of planting and termination.
Okay.
And then I will add that if anybody is interested in trying cover crops in their operation through the EQIP program, there could be cost share available if you're funded. It's actually about $37 an acre to establish multiple species cover crops, and it's up to I believe it's $21.92 right now is the cost share rate for single species cover crops. One thing you're going to hear a lot more of in the future from USDA and NRCS across North Dakota and the nation is we're going to be talking a lot of soil health. One of the main aspects of cover crops is keeping something growing in the soil all the time, keeping the organisms working, and soil health is the key to it all. So.
Okay, at least we hope you'll hear about it. Is there? How will the non-passage of the Farm Bill affect NCRS?
There's been a continuing resolution, as far as I know. As far as our programs are, we haven't heard anything that's going to tell us that they're not going to be.
Are they separate from the other programs then? Or
Or
is it all one Farm Bill? I don't even know that.
There's different funding allocations, but the conservation programs, as far as I know of, are funded up and through, up until March or so.
Okay.
As far as through
well,
the
I'm
continuing
assuming
resolution.
You will. I think we will. I'm pretty.
I can
confident.
assure people, your listeners, that the EQIP program or some sort of cost share program will be available.
They're not in jeopardy right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That was my question.
And then the CSP program, any contracts that are now in place are funded. But I don't know, is there any funding for new contracts for CSP?
And that I can't tell you that right now for sure. I know we're still going to be taking applications for all programs. We'll still take applications for all programs.
Well, it's good to know. It's good to know. I'm sure it's on them. That question is out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that if you need to get an application in order to be considered for funding. So if it does come through, your application is in. If not, NRCS is still there for technical assistance, not only financial assistance, but technical assistance. And our conservation technical assistance is the foundation of our agency more so than the financial assistance. So.
I think that once we get past the election this fall and stuff, we're going to see some of this stuff come into being. It may not be in the form we knew it in the past as far as farm programs and things like that, but nothing ever stays the same. So, I mean, that's the way it is. So.
There most certainly will be some changes.
Yeah.
So, Lynn, have you ever tried cover crop?
Well, we have in the past, but I'm not even sure how I would go about, we've got about a minute here. How would I go about cover crop? Being I just have stubble, I'm a minimum till guy. What would you do?
Well, if you'd have to almost put it on a crop that comes off early.
Yeah.
And trying to get the cover crop seeded like the first part of August. And if that wouldn't work for you, like on the western part of the state, guys are using it on crop that they chop for feed, and then it's off in July. And then they seed cover crop on that land.
And
so
then that cover crop will come back in the fall and grow again, and you'll be able to graze it and actually be able to double crop some cover crops in some situations. And for you as a rancher, it would benefit you tremendously.
Or if you have a piece of ground you want to just put in a few acres for feed, you could seed it earlier, hay it, and like spicklers, then they graze it in the fall.
I did do that this year. I took the millet, and I took the millet off fairly early.
So
it was I never even thought about it. Yeah. It would have been entirely.
And it also works really well to help control some of these salinity areas and get some production off some of those areas that may be a little higher in salinity.
Okay. Well, you got a number to call. We're about up against the break.
Yeah, just if any listeners out there, just give me a call at 653-5708 and give me a name of one vegetable that's used in a cover crop.
You can use our phones here too.
Okay.
Or 652-3151 or 652-3152. And what do you get out of that?
A Big Z basket.
Oh man, that I would drive in. Hey, that is worth it. Hey, I might have to go out and call for my cell phone. I'm going to go in the bathroom. I got to take a bathroom break.
Cows love turnips. I know that.
There we go. Maybe you can answer the phone out here. No, I did not call. So anyway, we've got a break. We'll come back after the break. We'll listen to the. Man, I can't see it on here. There we go.
This is Lakota Sports Network. I'm Steve Carlson. The Minnesota Twins have one game remaining in the season after losing to Toronto last night 4-3. Despite Denard Span drilling a 2-run homer and Anthony Swarzak pitching okay, although he did allow all 4.
We do have a winner. Thank you for calling.
Several players are not playing for the Twins, including first baseman Justin Morneau. Manager Ron Gardenhire on why he's holding him out.
I'm happy that he was out in the field. There wasn't too many times where he said, I can't go. He had to back off one time during the summer a little bit and give him a few days. But, for the most part, he was out there grinding it out, playing through injuries. With all the concussion stuff with the head and all that is completely gone. We don't worry about it.